The breaking point, the chamber fell silent as Admiral Sarah Chen's boots echoed against the crystal floor. Around the massive circular table sat representatives from 47 species, their alien forms casting strange shadows under the ethereal blue lighting of the neutral zone station. This was humanity's last chance at peace, and everyone in the room knew it. Chen had fought in 3 wars before her 40th birthday. She'd watched colonies burn, seen good soldiers die in the vacuum of space, and held the hands of children who would never see their parents again. But nothing had prepared her for this moment. The weight of humanity's future pressed down on her shoulders like gravity from a dying star. Ambassador Zekthor rose from his position at the table's head. The insectoid aliens for arms moved in precise gestures as he spoke, his translator rendering his clicks and whistles into cold English words. Admiral Chen, the Galactic Consortium has reached its final decision regarding humanity's expansion into the Outer Rim territories. Chen remained standing, her hands clasped behind her back. She'd learned long ago not to show weakness in rooms full of predators. "I'm listening, Ambassador. Your species will immediately withdraw from all colonies beyond the Sol System's influence. This includes mining operations on Kepler 44 to beef the agricultural settlements in the Proxima Centauri system, and all military installations in sectors 7 through 12. Zekthol's compound eyes gleamed as he continued. "You have 90 standard days to complete this withdrawal." The demand hit the room like a plasma torpedo. Chen felt her jaw clench, but her voice remained steady. "And if we refuse?" A creature that looked like a cross between a whale and a spider shifted in its environmental suit. Its voice bubbled through the translator with obvious disdain. "Then you will be removed by force, little human. Your species lacks the wisdom to coexist with the established order." Dr. Elena Busquets, who had spent 15 years trying to build bridges between species, finally spoke up from her position behind Chen. "Those colonies house over 3 million people, families, children, entire communities who have built their lives there. You're asking us to abandon them." Zekthol's mandibles clicked dismissively. "Your reproductive rate is concerning to many consortium members. These restrictions are necessary for galactic stability." Chun's eyes narrowed. She'd heard this argument before, dressed up in diplomatic language, but the meaning was always the same. Humanity was growing too fast, becoming too strong, claiming too much space. They were afraid. "Let me understand this correctly," Chen said, her voice cutting through the chamber's recycled air. "You want us to cram 3 million people back into our home system because our birth rate makes you uncomfortable. You want us to give up the resources we need to feed our children because it threatens your profit margins. And if we don't comply, you'll kill those same children you claim to be protecting." A crystalline being that communicated through light patterns flashed angry reds and oranges. "Your species is aggressive, Admiral. This has been documented across multiple encounters. The consortium seeks only peace." Chen laughed, and the sound was sharp enough to cut metal. "Peace. You call it peace when the hegemony raids our shipping lanes, and you do nothing. You call it peace when the Vorthan Empire blocks our trade routes, and you issue strongly worded statements. But when we defend ourselves, suddenly we're the aggressors." "Those are internal disputes between member species," Zekthol replied smoothly. "The consortium does not interfere in such matters, unless it involves humans." Chen stepped forward, and several aliens visibly recoiled. "Tell me, Ambassador, what happens when we refuse your generous offer?" The insectoid's head tilted in what might have been surprise. "Refuse, Admiral," I think you misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. This is a directive from the Consortium Council. Chen nodded slowly, as if she'd expected this answer. And there it is. After 20 years of talks, treaties, and trade agreements, we finally get to the truth. We're not partners in this galaxy. We're not even equals. We're pets that have grown too large for our cage. Dr. Vasquez touched Chen's arm. Gently. Sarah, perhaps we could discuss modified terms. No. Chun's voice carried the finality of a closing airlock. No more discussions. No more compromises. No more begging for scraps from their table. She turned to face the assembled aliens, and something in her expression made even the largest predator species lean back in their chairs. Humanity rejects your directive. Ambassador Zek, we will not abandon our colonies. We will not retreat to Sol like beaten dogs. And we will not submit to a consortium that sees us as nothing more than an inconvenience to be managed. The chamber erupted in angry voices, translated into dozens of languages. Through the chaos, Zekthal's voice cut like a blade. Then you have chosen war, Admiral Chen. The consortium has 4,000 ships. You have perhaps 200. This is not a battle you can win. Chen smiled, and it was the most dangerous expression anyone in that room had ever seen. Ambassador, you've never understood humans at all. We don't fight battles we can win. We fight battles we can't afford to lose. She turned and walked toward the exit, Dr. Vasquez hurrying to keep up. As the chamber doors sealed behind them, Chen activated her communication implant. This is Admiral Chen to all human vessels. Execute Protocol Omega immediately. We're going dark. Dr. Vasquez grabbed her arm as they reached their shuttle. Sarah, what have you done? 3 million people are counting on us to find a peaceful solution. Chen's eyes were cold as vacuum. I've given them something better than peace, Alina. I've given them a chance to remain human. Within hours, the consortium's response came swift and brutal. Prosperity 7, a mining station in the asteroid belt between Jupiter and Mars, simply vanished in a ball of superheated plasma. 2,000 miners, engineers, and their families died in less than 30 seconds. No warning, no evacuation order, no mercy. Captain Marcus Rivera watched the destruction from the bridge of his patrol ship, Phoenix Rising. His crew stood in stunned silence as debris from what had once been their friends and colleagues scattered across the void. Rivera had served under Chen for 8 years, and he'd never seen his commander cry. But when the transmission reached them, showing the melted remains of the station's playground, something broke in all of them. Sir, his communications officer said quietly, we're receiving a message from Admiral Chen. Rivera nodded, his throat too tight to speak. Chun's voice filled the bridge, steady despite the tears streaming down her face on the view screen. All human vessels, this is your admiral. The consortium has shown us who they really are. They murder children to make political points. They destroy homes to send messages. They have forgotten that humans are not a species that forgives such things. The transmission switched to tactical displays, showing fleet positions across human space. As of this moment, we are at war. Not the kind of war they expect, with formal declarations and rules of engagement. This is a war for survival, for the right to exist as free beings in this galaxy. Rivera watched as dozens of green dots began moving on the tactical display. Human ships, emerging from hiding places throughout the outer rim, converging on consortium. Positions like antibodies responding to an infection. They have superior numbers, Chen continued. but they have never faced an enemy that refuses to quit. They have advanced technology, but they have never fought a species that learns from every mistake. They have the support of the galaxy, but they have never encountered the fury of parents who have watched their children die. The first engagement came at the Vega colony, where a consortium fleet of 20 ships arrived, expecting to find frightened humans ready to surrender. Instead, they found Captain Rivera and a task force of modified human vessels that had been hiding in the system's asteroid field for 3 days. The battle lasted 4 minutes. When it was over, the consortium had lost 16 ships, and the humans had lost none. The secret was in their tactics. While alien species fought like civilized beings, following established patterns and protocols, humans fought like the apex predators they had evolved to be. Rivera's ships didn't engage in honorable ship-to-ship combat. They attacked in coordinated swarms, using their smaller size and superior maneuverability to strike at weak points before disappearing back into the asteroid field. When consortium ships tried to pursue, they found themselves flying into carefully placed minefields that turned their own momentum against them. But the real surprise came from the human ships themselves. While the aliens had focused on building larger, more powerful vessels, humans had learned to think differently. Their ships were smaller, faster, and packed with experimental technology that broke every rule of conventional space warfare. The Phoenix Rising's main weapon wasn't a massive energy cannon or a particle beam array. It was a railgun that fired solid projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. At those velocities, even a small chunk of metal became a weapon capable of punching through the heaviest armor. And unlike energy weapons, there was no way to block or deflect them. As news of the Vega victory spread through human space, something changed in the species that had once begged for acceptance at the galactic table. The fear that had driven them to seek peace at any cost transformed into something far more dangerous: hope. Dr. Vasquez, now serving aboard Chen's flagship, watched the tactical reports flooding in from across human territory. Everywhere, the pattern was the same. Consortium fleets would arrive expecting easy victories and instead found themselves facing enemies that fought with a desperation and creativity that defied all military doctrine. "They're not just winning battles," she told Chen as they stood in the ship's observation deck, watching stars whirl past at faster than light speeds. "They're learning. Every engagement teaches them something new about how we fight." Chen nodded, her reflection ghost-like in the reinforced transposteel. "That's what makes us dangerous, Elena. We don't just adapt to survive, we adapt to win." The final act of Part 1 came 3 weeks after the war began. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching as the last consortium patrol in the Outer Rim was systematically destroyed by Captain Rodriguez's hunter-killer squadron. But she wasn't celebrating. Something was wrong. "Admiral," her sensor operator called out, "I'm detecting some kind of energy signature on the long-range scanners. It's not matching any known consortium vessel profiles." Chen frowned, moving to examine the readings herself. The signature was massive, far larger than anything in either fleet, and it was moving toward them at impossible speeds. "Source?" she asked. "Unknown, ma'am. It's like nothing in our databases. The energy patterns are ... strange, almost organic." Dr. Vasquez joined them at the sensor station, her face pale as she studied the readings. "Sarah, this isn't consortium technology. This isn't anybody's technology. Those energy patterns, they're older than anything we've ever encountered." Chen felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's environmental systems. In choosing war over submission, humanity had gained the attention of something that had been watching from the dark spaces between stars, something that had been waiting to see what the newest species in the galaxy would choose when faced with extinction. As the mysterious signature grew stronger, Chen realized that the war with the consortium had been only the beginning. Whatever was coming toward them through the void would determine not just humanity's future, but the future of every living being in the galaxy. The test was about to begin. The awakening, the first consortium fleet vanished on a Tuesday. Admiral Chen received the report while studying tactical projections in her war room aboard the flagship Defiance. Commander Torres, her intelligence officer, looked shaken as he delivered the news. "Ma'am, we've lost contact with the Hegemony's 4th Battle Group. They were en route to reinforce the siege at New Geneva when their transponder signals just ... stopped." Chen looked up from the holographic display showing human defensive positions. "Stopped? How did we get them?" "That's the problem, Admiral. Our nearest strike force is 3 light-years away. Captain Rivera's squadron is still mopping up resistance. At the Kepler mining facility, nobody was close enough to engage them." Dr. Vasquez, who had been quietly working at a nearby console, turned toward them with concern written across her face. "How many ships?" 37 vessels, including 2 dreadnoughts. Torres wiped sweat from his forehead. They were broadcasting routine navigation data, then nothing. Not even debris signatures. Chen felt the familiar weight of command pressing down on her shoulders. In the 3 weeks since humanity had declared war on the Galactic Consortium, they'd been winning through cunning, desperation, and sheer bloody-minded refusal to quit. But making enemy fleets disappear without a trace wasn't in their tactical playbook. Any distress signals, emergency beacons, nothing. It's like they were just ... erased. The second disappearance came 6 hours later, then a third. By the end of the week, the consortium had lost over 200 ships to whatever was stalking them through the void. The humans hadn't lost a single vessel to the same phenomenon. Captain Marcus Rivera brought his battle group back from the Kepler sector to find the entire strategic situation transformed. Where once the consortium had held numerical superiority, now their forces were scattered and demoralized, afraid to move in anything less than massive formations. "It's like fighting ghosts," reported Commander Nash from the reconnaissance vessel Shadow Walker. "The aliens are so paranoid about these disappearances that they're pulling back from offensive operations. Some species are even withdrawing from consortium space entirely." Chen studied the tactical display in her ready room, watching as red icons representing enemy forces retreated toward their core systems. What should have been good news felt ominous instead. Something was hunting in the dark between stars, and it was only killing aliens. Dr. Vasquez knocked on her doorframe. "Sarah, I think you need to see this." They made their way to the ship's sensor array, where Chief Petty Officer Kim was analyzing long-range scan data. The young technician looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes telling the story of too many sleepless nights. "Admiral, we've been picking up something strange on the subspace frequencies. It started about the same time as the first disappearances." Kim activated the recording equipment. "Listen to this." The sound that filled the room wasn't quite music and wasn't quite speech. It was something older, deeper, like the memory of stars being born. The melody, if it could be called that, seemed to bypass the ears entirely and resonate in their bones. "What is it?" Chen asked. "We don't know. The signal originates from empty space, but it's not random. There are patterns, structures that suggest intelligence, and Admiral ... Kim hesitated. It only plays when consortium ships disappear. Dr. Vasquez ran her fingers over the audio analysis data. This is incredible. The harmonic frequencies are unlike anything in our xenological databases. It's as if the source is using mathematics we haven't discovered yet. Chen stared at the waveform patterns dancing across the display. After 20 years of military service, she'd learned to trust her instincts, and every instinct she had was screaming that humanity had attracted the attention of something beyond their understanding. Kim, I want continuous monitoring of all subspace frequencies. If this signal changes, if it gets stronger, if it so much as hiccups, I want to know immediately. The answer came 3 days later, but not in the form Chen expected. She was reviewing casualty reports from the Battle of Tau Ceti when every screen on the ship flickered and went dark. Emergency lighting bathed the bridge in red shadows as backup systems struggled to compensate for the massive power drain. Report, Chen barked. Unknown. Ma'am, it's like something just scanned us with energy readings off the scale. The sensor operator's hands flew over his console. But whatever it was, it didn't hurt us. If anything, our systems are running better than before. That was when the voice spoke. It didn't come through the communication systems or the ships. Speakers? Instead, it seemed to emanate from the walls themselves, from the metal and composites that formed the Defiance's hull. When it spoke, every human on the ship heard it in their own language, as if it was speaking directly to their minds. Children of the Third World from the Yellow Star. Chen felt her heart stop. Beside her, Dr. Vasquez gripped the edge of her console so hard her knuckles went white. Throughout the bridge, officers stood frozen as the impossible voice continued. We have watched your war. We have observed your choices. You interest us. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force, she said aloud, feeling somewhat foolish for speaking to empty air. Identify yourself. A sound like cosmic laughter filled their minds. Names are limitations, small admiral. Your species has many names for us. Observer, judge, the wanderer, between stars. We are what remains when civilizations choose their final path. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, her scientific training overriding her fear. You've been destroying the consortium fleets. Destroying, the word seemed to taste strange in the entity's mental voice. No, we do not destroy. We evaluate. Those who fail the test simply ... cease to be relevant. Chun's military mind raced through the implications. What test? The presence grew stronger, and suddenly the bridge view screen activated, showing not the stars outside, but something else entirely. Images flashed by, civilizations rising and falling across millions of years, species making choices that determined their fate, wars that ended not in victory or defeat, but in judgment. Every thinking species faces the same choice. Admiral Chen. When confronted with extinction, do they beg for mercy, or do they choose to remain who they are? Do they compromise their essence for survival, or do they accept death before dishonor? The images shifted to show humanity's recent actions, the failed peace talks, the refusal to abandon their colonies, the desperate battles against overwhelming odds. But there was something else in the visions, something that made Chun's blood run cold. You've been testing us. Testing, teaching, watching. The Wanderer's attention felt like standing in the light of a newborn star. Most species, when faced with superior force, choose submission. They rationalize it as wisdom, as survival, as the greater good. They become something less than what they were. Dr. Vasquez understood first. the disappearing ships. You weren't just killing consortium forces. You were removing opposition so we could fight freely. What are you doing to us? Chen demanded. Preparing you, the Wanderer replied. The galaxy requires guardians, Admiral Chen. For millions of years, that role has been empty. The old guardians failed their final test long ago, choosing comfort over duty. Since then, we have waited. The viewscreen showed images of a galaxy in decline, species growing stagnant, cultures becoming corrupt, wars fought not for principle, but for petty advantage. It was a cosmic civilization slowly rotting. From within, waited for what? For a species young enough to still remember what honor means, old enough to have the strength to enforce it, willing to fight for principles even when victory seems impossible. Chen felt the weight of destiny settling on her shoulders like lead armor. You want us to police the galaxy. We want you to choose. The Wanderer's presence grew softer, almost paternal. The power we offer is not without cost. Accept it, and humanity becomes something more than it was. Your children will be born with capabilities that current humans can barely imagine. Your species will have the strength to impose order on a chaotic galaxy. And if we refuse, then you remain as you are, free to live your own lives, fight your own wars, rise or fall according to your own choices. The galaxy will continue its slow decline, but that will not be your responsibility. Dr. Vasquez looked at Chen with eyes that now seemed to see deeper than they had before. Sarah, this is incredible. The scientific advances alone. We could cure diseases, explore distant galaxies, solve problems that have plagued humanity for centuries. But Chen was thinking like a soldier, not a scientist. What happened to the last guardians? The Wanderer's mental voice grew sad. They forgot why they had been chosen. Over millennia, duty became routine, justice became convenience, protection became control. They began to see themselves not as servants of civilization, but as its masters. And you destroyed them. They destroyed themselves. We merely ... observed. Chen walked to the bridge's forward viewport, staring out at the stars that had become humanity's battlefield. In the distance, she could see the running lights of other human ships, vessels crewed by people who had followed her into a war they couldn't win because the alternative was losing who they were. How long do we have to decide? The moment extends as long as necessary, Admiral Chen. But choose, you must. The galaxy's future depends on whether humanity accepts the role that awaits them. Chen turned back to face her crew, seeing the changes already beginning in their faces. They looked sharper, more focused, as if a fog had been lifted from their minds. The power the Wanderer offered was already flowing through them, waiting only for her acceptance to become permanent. If we accept, she said carefully, what guarantees do we have that we won't become like the previous guardians? The cosmic laughter returned, but this time it held warmth instead of mockery. None, small admiral. That is the beauty of the test. Each generation of guardians must prove themselves worthy, not once, but continuously. The moment you begin to see yourselves as rulers rather than servants, the moment you choose comfort over duty, you fail. Chen looked at Dr. Vasquez, at her bridge crew, at the faces of people who had followed her into impossible odds and somehow found victory. They were still human, but they were becoming something more. The question was whether that transformation would save the galaxy or doom it. She thought of the children on Prosperity 7, murdered to make a political point. She thought of the colonies the consortium wanted to abandon, the millions of humans they were willing to sacrifice for the sake of stability. She thought of a galaxy where might made right and justice was whatever the powerful decided it should be. "We accept," she said finally. The change was instantaneous and overwhelming. Power flowed through every human ship, every human mind, transforming them at the deepest levels. They were still recognizably human, but they were more than they had been. Stronger, smarter, more capable of the impossible task ahead of them. The Wanderer's presence began to fade, but its voice remained clear. "Then go, children of Earth. Bring order to chaos. Protect the weak from the strong. Remember always that power without wisdom is tyranny, and wisdom without power is useless." As the entity's attention withdrew, Chen felt the weight of command settle on her shoulders once more, but this time it felt different. This time she carried not just the hopes of humanity, but the future of every thinking being in the galaxy. The war with the consortium was over before it truly began. Faced with humanity's new capabilities and the mysterious disappearance of their strongest fleets, the surviving alien civilizations had no choice but to accept the new order. But as Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of her transformed flagship, watching as the first human patrol ships departed to bring justice to distant systems, she wondered if they had won a great victory or taken the first step toward becoming the very thing they had fought against. Only time would tell if humanity could handle the power they had been given. And somewhere in the dark between stars, the Wanderer watched and waited to see if this new generation of guardians would prove worthy of the trust placed in them. Asterisk,